I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Moraro?
Here.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda.
Support.
Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 4th, 2021, and executive session of January 4th, 2021.
I make a motion. We approve the regular meeting of January 4th, 2021.
Support.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
I'll make a motion. We approve the executive session, the minutes from the executive session, January 4th, 2021.
Support. Support.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
We'll move on to the approval of manifest 2021-002. Scott,
I have nothing for tonight.
Brett,
I have nothing.
Jeff,
I have nothing, Madam Mayor.
Jeremy,
Nothing.
and I have nothing. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve manifest 2021-02 in the amount of $224,031.52.
Support.
Is that Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
We'll move on to the answers. Do we have any previous manifest questions?
No, they were answered at the meeting.
Anyone wishing to address the council on an agenda item only will be unmuted and given an opportunity to make their comments. For participants on Zoom, you can use the raise your hand feature and the host will initiate the unmute. For telephone participants, hit *9 to initiate a request to speak. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes.
There are no hands, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We have no public hearing, no appointments and presentations. Move on to communications. Approval, traffic control order TCO-21-01. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. This particular traffic control order was brought to my attention from the Chief of Police, requesting that we place the no parking in front of the EV station. This is for, it would be for EV customers only, you know, because it's a public parking lot that when things open up or get back to normal and we have events on the main street, that area could be parked in. And so so he put together a standard traffic control order for, there's actually, I show 2 spots, but it's really 1.5 because the equipment takes up a better part of that half a lot or half a spot on the northern section. So.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Ray, what's the proposed fine? You know?
It's actually just a no parking fine or a parking fine in the your schedule of fines. It's like $50, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's probably a big enough deterrent. I mean, obviously we
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want
it's
to
big
turn,
enough.
we want to turn revenue away, you know?
No, it's a standard no parking fine. It's typically big enough.
Okay.
And we'll put up a nice sign, so people can read it,
Mhm.
see it.
I have no questions. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that traffic control order TC 21-01 be approved.
Support.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes?
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Mararo,
Yes.
Mr. Ocha,
yes,
Mr. Pop.
Yes.
On to approval, City of Norway Properties 2021 sales price list. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Ryan Gordon is with us tonight. He's helped put together a recommendation for lots that were in question, mainly the Norway Spring and then also the Oak Crest Drive. So Ryan is now up in our panel. He can unmute. Then you can ask him questions, but basically what we did was we carried the regular list forward, and we did revise. We revised 2 lots in the spring to go below 5,000. We could revise the other lots if you so choose. And we can ask Ryan his opinions on those other lots. And then out at the spring, basically in our conversation, suggested pricing for those lots would be 19,000. So somewhere between 15 and 20. He's recommending 19, and we're investigating. Actually, there's a lot 1A that goes along the number 7 fairway, but we have to double check the deed restrictions because that goes into another set of another properties that actually are corresponding with the golf course, and so we still have to do some investigation on deeds for that. Also, the Planning Commission has been reviewing. We have to. We're going to have a public hearing with the Planning Commission on the new zoning ordinance, which is basically the old zoning ordinance that's updated because we are moving away from the township and back on our own. And there are a couple of areas that the Planning Commission is reviewing, and one is the minimum lot size, especially in the rural residential area. And of course, we have a separate zoning district at the Oak Crest and that Oak Crest properties, and they're reviewing lowering that from a 2.5 minimum to a 1.5. And so then the question is, do we lower those lot sizes from 2.5 to 1.5? Again, Brian, if you could unmute yourself, you can be part of the conversation here. And what basically from what he has been telling me, that the anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 is relatively the same when it comes to the pricing. So it's not so much the size as it is the location when people are looking at those vacant lots. I know that again, in talking with Ryan, his take has been that not many vacant land has sold in the last couple of years, especially with the rise in cost for building. That's been a major deterrent on people buying, and so that's been one of the holdups. So I can answer questions from the council on.
The only thing I got to say about that is the cost. You're talking about the cost of building and everything else like that. As a contractor, I know somewhat of the prices of materials and everything else, and we didn't see a jump until this past year. Okay, so if we go from the past year prior to now, how many offers have we had on these lots?
We don't have any offers on the
Let's say the
lots.
last 4.
Right,
Yeah,
we didn't have any offers on the lots.
I still think they're too high.
Ryan. Ryan Gordon, are you there?
He's showing up. I don't know why. He probably can't, for some reason he can't unmute. So he's having trouble unmuting. I mean, that's what his recommendation is. I'm not a real estate professional, so I'm going off of what Mr. Gordon is suggesting.
Yeah, I guess if Ryan can't jump on real quick, I have had a conversation with Mr. Gordon, and he is of the thought that the lots at 19.9 with some room to negotiate seem to be moving much better than obviously the Scotts Point lots at $30,000. So that is the conversations I've had with Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, and there's always room to negotiate.
Exactly, Candy.
And I mean, I know that the prices are put into his proposal, but if we chose to go back and revisit it, say 6 months down the road or after summer, can we change the prices?
We can do, I think we do what we want, right?
Up to you. I know one question that came up at the last meeting, and again, talking with Ryan, getting the cost, the total cost for sale comes about $3,500. So mainly because we're talking about the spring, if anything over $4,000, and we're breaking even.
Well, I think Scott's been on record, and I have too, that basically that's not a bad thing, right? We want to move these lots, get people building on them.
Yep, absolutely.
Get taxes in, get the utilities in, things like that. So I think that's, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that's a game stopper.
Do I have a motion, or you guys want to hear from Ryan?
I motion that City of Norway Properties 2021 sales price list be approved.
I have one question first, Jeff. I know you got a motion on the floor. Have we ever looked into, I know up in the Spring subdivision, have we ever looked at, I know these are just half-acre lots, just so we can get tax revenue from them. Have we ever looked at, having the neighboring properties invest in that, or no?
Yeah, we've accepted joining lots in the past. They come with a request, and we've investigated it and moved on it.
Right. Sorry, Jeff. Jeff's motion's on the floor.
No problem, Brett.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Marraro,
Yes.
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Pop,
No.
Mrs. Bruce.
Yes. We'll move on to resolution 2021-02, MEQW safety program proposal, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, well, the next item, though, we need to move on the listing agreement
Yeah,
for
there's a listing agreement.
Stevens Real Estate. There were two separate items with Ryan.
Sorry.
No problem. So, yeah, so he provided you with his listing agreement, and it's pretty much the same agreement that we've had with him last couple of years. So we just need to move forward and approve having them list both the Spring properties and the Oak Crest properties.
Do I have a motion?
I motion that Stevens Real Estate listing agreement be approved.
I'll second.
Mr. Marraro,
Yes.
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Pop,
No.
Mrs. Bruce.
With the listing prices, I will agree with it as long as we can go back and readjust it if we want to.
Is that a yes?
Situation, if not, no.
Yes, his agreement is pretty much a flat rate because of the pricing of our properties. So our changing of listing prices, if that's what you're asking, our change of listing prices doesn't affect his contract.
Okay.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
So then the safety program proposal, that one we're asking to table one more meeting. We're waiting on getting the final marked up. We have a marked up agreement, which is agreed to with the MUW, and they're in the process of giving us final paperwork. We didn't feel it was appropriate for council to approve a marked up copy. We should have the actual agreement. So we'd like to table it to the next meeting.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion, we table resolution 2021-02 until the next meeting.
Or
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Pop,
yes,
Mrs. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Mararo.
Yes.
We'll move on to the Sturgeon Falls Hydro Smoke Detection System, Mr. Anderson.
And this particular item came up a little over a year ago. We had a audit by our insurance company, and they pointed out that both the cabin and our hydro facility needs to have some smoke detection system in place. So we have this proposal for you this evening. We looked around to find multiple companies that would handle this, and there weren't any within our geographic area. There was one, this Superior Land Electronics, handles pretty much all the work in this area. When we looked at outside of the area, they were actually going to charge us to come in and review it. So we didn't think that there would be any chance that their proposal would actually be less after they charged us to come in and actually look at it. We have a proposal from Superior Land Electric for $5,646 to handle this work. Scott Hagee is on. If you have any specific questions, he handled.
I have questions. Madam Mayor, if I may. Scott, hi, it's Jeff Mararo. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Jeff?
Good, man. Did you get any idea of what they were going to charge to do a bid?
No, I did not. Basically, once I was told they were going to charge us to even come, that was pretty much the end of the conversation.
Yeah. If spending $200 for a bid saves us $1,000, it's probably worth our time. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't get an exact number, but the impression I got was it was going to be quite a bit more than that. But I didn't get a specific number.
I guess for future reference, it's a $5,650 bid. I understand if it's $1,200, somebody wants to, do that. But on a bid this size, if somebody wants, $200 to come up from the valley to give us a bid, I think it might be prudent that we look at that, because you might get a 15 or 20% savings on it. Again, not trying to trip over pennies, just I think it's a question that should be asked when you're talking to these folks about getting another bid.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank
I
you.
have a question under the notes. Item number 4, owner to provide and install all cable back boxes and 120 volt AC power. So we are going to do that, Scott?
Yes, we're going to run the wires inside the plant and inside the cabin to keep our costs lower.
Okay.
So really, to Brett's point, the $10,000 budgetary number, we're going to be a lot closer to that than the 5646 by the time we figure our time and materials into this project.
and materials.
Right. That's correct.
Scott, do you have a guesstimate what, with our materials and our time, what more like we would be spending on this?
I would say we're going to be right at the $10,000 mark. Material wise, it's not much. We need some wire, and it's just like 16 gauge 2 pair. We don't need a ton of it. but it's just mostly time. Running wire inside that cabin is going to take time because we got to pull trim work down and get the wire inside the wall. Because people spend the night in the cabin, we have to put pulls, like fire alarm pulls upstairs and at every exit. So that kind of complicates things a little bit. So getting wire fished around inside there because of the solid walls will be tricky. That's where it's most of the time.
We can't run conduit.
We can. We're going to have to run some of it in conduit inside the cabin, but mostly in the plant, we're going to have to run conduit.
So this statement, then the attached proposal is for 5,600 or 4,300 under budget is not true. It's going to cost 10 grand.
Yes.
Okay. So it's misled then.
Yeah, I'll go back to my original statement. I think it's always important that we try to, and I know you guys did your diligence, but again, it would have been good to ask the question, what are you going to charge us to provide a bid in this thing? It's always good, especially when you're talking thousands of dollars to have an option. It's hard for the council to take a unilateral bid.
Yes, sir. Noted.
And so it's going to be closer to the 10,000 mark. There is no savings there, right? And that's what you had budgeted for it.
Correct.
Is there any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that Superior Line Electronics be approved to perform the smoke detection system installation at the hydro for a price not to exceed $5,646.
I'll support.
Mr. Pop,
Yes, but I would like to see what the final is on this. If we're over budget or under budget, because there's not a definite answer of $10,000 right now. We just a guesstimate. And I don't like how the attached proposal is for 46 or $4,300 under budget.
Mrs. Brew,
I'll say yes, but I want to see what kind of hours is put into that because we also need our guys doing other things.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Marraro,
No,
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Move on to resolution 2021-01, multi-party agreement of Norway parcel sale. Mr. Anderson.
Hey, thank you, Madam Mayor. This particular item was brought forward from City Attorney Carlson, where, if you remember a few months ago, Dr. Jacob brought to the council a request for an extension, and she indicated that she was actually going to, or we talked about having her look for a property sale, and she actually has a sale agreement. And so Mr. Carlson has put together or worked with the parties to put this multi party agreement together. I can turn it over to him for explanation.
What council has is a multi-party agreement. The parties, council in the past has put in these deed restrictions and reverter language that we've been dealing with for a number of years, rising to this lakeside builders parcel that was developed years ago. Dr. Jacob purchased this a few years ago with the intention of building. She has been before this council and asked for an extension at least once. She is advised that she purchased another home and was looking to sell this property. My understanding is that these folks are excited to build and then build quickly. They have been advised and are aware of the 2-year reverter language that is going to be included and is included in their deed. So they are planning on moving forward and taking the property, knowing the language and the requirements therein. Same agreement we've used in the past as well for the transfer of these properties. And as soon as the building goes up, what the process will be, the city will draft a release of the reversion language, and the title will be cleaned up from that point forward, which is what we've done with the other properties that have built up there. So hopefully these folks, I wish them well, hope that they put up a big, beautiful home. I don't have any issues with doing so. And we will have a waiver of that reversion language prepared and ready to go as soon as they have their occupant.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Grant, when was the original sale to Dr. Jacob? Just rough estimate year.
Believe. Oh, hang on.
I tried to find it myself, but I couldn't find it here.
I know I was on here when we did that.
2017.
Oh, it was 2017, the original sale of Dr. Jacob. And
Yes.
then, and Lakeside Builders bought it when? 2009. The point I'm trying to make, guys, is that so in 2009, Lakeside Builders or Joe LaFay bought this property, and it is now 2021. We've been, and I'm very happy this is going through, and I'm very hopeful that these folks will build in it. But we've given how many extensions for 11 years on property that we should be getting, you know, taxation, you know, there's supposed to be a home on it within 2 years. So it's basically 10 years we've lost in taxes, utilities, etc. I just don't want to set a precedence like this. I'm happy it's sold, but again, the purpose of what we do with these lots is to get folks to build within 2 years, not 11. Thank you.
There's nothing else. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion resolution 2021-01 be approved.
Mrs. Brew,
Yeah.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Marraro,
Yes.
Mr. Ocha,
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
Yes.
Move on to approval, Department of Public Works, JCB loader windshield and parts.
So we have to replace a windshield in the JCP loader, and we also have some other parts, some of the lights that need to be replaced. The total cost for the replacement is $1,867.52. We are submitting this for insurance.
Any questions? If not, I need a motion.
Motion the Department of Public Works JCB front end loader repairs be approved.
Support.
For the amount of Jeff.
I'm sorry, 1,860, not to exceed 1,867.52.
Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Marraro,
Yes.
Mr. Ocha,
Yes.
Mr. Pop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brew.
Yes. Approval of Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 4 generator turbine distributor refurbishment.
Okay, again, I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Hagee. He's done quite a bit of work on this particular request for unit number 4. So Scott, why don't you explain, what we have here with this request for repair?
Okay, so it would be in November of 2019. If you remember, we had that catastrophic failure where the generator ate all the wicket gates. And at that time, we put a new rubber bearing in, remanufactured the new wicket gate pins, did a pretty good refurbishment of everything, ran the machine for the winter. And then in spring, we went to dewater it and found that 9 out of the 20 gate pins were broke and the rubber bearing was inoperable. And that's when council approved the wood bearing, which was installed. And when we were reinstalling it, we did a lot of investigation as to why these gate pins keep breaking. This has been a chronic problem far before the catastrophic failure in 19. Never as bad, but every time we de-water, we always got 3, 4, 5 broken gate pins. This last time it was 9, so we were dangerously close to another catastrophic failure. So while we were investigating it, we found that there's a major misalignment between the curb ring, which is the bottom, it would be a steel plate that's grouted into the concrete, and the head cover. When you reinstall the gate pins, you have to put an incredible amount of force on the gate pins to get them to slide into the head cover. There's a threaded bushing in the head cover, and it just binds up in there something fierce. That needs to be true and free in order to alleviate the stress on these pins. The pins, obviously they're the hinge for the wicket gates, but they also support the head cover, which the turbine bearing is attached to. So these gate pins have an incredible amount of stress on them already. And this alignment is the root cause of many of the issues we've had underwater with this thing. So, how should I put this? This is, in my opinion, I really hope that this is the final step on this machine, that this will fix our problems and we'll have a reliable machine again. As I wrote in my write-up, the wood bearing is performing great. The generator itself seems great. We're doing constant oil testing on the gearbox. That's coming back great every time. So the machine is in really good shape, but we got to just tend to what's underwater, so we don't end up with another catastrophic failure.
So Scott, this is what we talked about previously, where you guys there's some plan out there where this generator, this turbine, you found a way, or there's a way that's kind of published out there to make the adjustments to reconfigure so that the failures stop. Is that correct? I think we've kind of visited this before.
Yes. So that leads us to the proposal we have tonight. The wood bearing was manufactured through HCMS, but particularly by a man out of Wild Rose. He owns Wild Rose Machine Shop. He actually owns several of his own little hydros. He is uniquely familiar with this style of runner. And when he went down there, was installing the bearing, he's like, guys, this can be fixed. I know how to do this. This is what we got to do to get this done. So over the winter, he's worked on a plan on how to get this thing up and running. And me and Scott Klabundy and this gentleman, whose name is Chris Cutts, have been in communication, developing a plan off the things we found in spring. And that's the plan you see in front of you right now tonight.
So Scott, this wasn't out for bids or anything like that? Once again.
No, it was not.
And the reason,
is there a reason why?
There is. Once again, Chris Cutts, working along with HCMS, he is uniquely qualified to fix this machine.
It seems like every 4 months that there's an $80,000 project that's going up there. We keep finding things.
Right. I agree with you, and I want to get past that hump. So the risk involved in this is we don't have to fix it. We can look at it in a year. It's just, what risk are we assuming at that point? Are we going to have a catastrophic failure in spring? I don't know. It might run for 3 years like this. But I do know, looking back at the history, every 6 months, every 3 months, we de-water it and we have broken pins. So I would just hate to demolish that brand new wood bearing we put down there. So that's why I'm bringing this to council tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I just, once in a while, I would like to see something put out for bids instead of just staying with one person. So it's always the same thing.
Yeah, I can comment on that, Scott. That's a very good question. I'd be asking the very same thing. The work, elaborate a little bit more on the work here. We're talking about doing machine work that you would normally do in a machine shop with a boring mill. We're talking about doing that work inside the turbine pit. Okay. Now, and also we're talking about some disassembly, and we're also talking about new parts, new bushings, new pins. The in-place machining work, I don't know who I would find to even bid that out to. When Scott said that Wild Rose machine is uniquely qualified, what he's really saying is that you're not going to find anybody else to do this work in place. C.R. Myron, even Northern Machine and Repair, they do a tremendous amount of hydro work, would not bid on this because of the in-place machining piece. The other option would be to tear this out, to take the head covers out. And in order to do that, you'd have to structurally, you'd have to cut the beams on the intake side of the turbine bay, which is pretty questionable to do in the first place. It would be tremendously more expensive to do all that work to remove it and put it in the shop. So yeah, this should be bid out, but quite frankly, there just isn't anybody that's qualified. We could get in-place machining, but they're not going to do the parts because they don't fabricate parts, and they do not do the disassembly reassembly work. So, we could piece it together that way, but I can guarantee to you that it would be very, very expensive to have. They're out of Milwaukee.
Now, is this bid through you or is this bid through him?
This is bid through me. HCMS has the existing. We have an existing contract in place with the city, so it makes sense to do that. And we would provide the oversight, the liability, of course, just like we did with in-place machining when we brought them in to do you might recall, we brought them in to do the bearing work, the shaft work on unit number 1 this last fall. So
but assuming that they do the work, they should have some type of insurance or some type of warranty or something like that. So
absolutely. I mean, HCMS would not take that risk with any.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to cut your throat. I'm just saying if they have their own policy, they protect things, they it's nice to have HCMS look over things, but we're almost paying a middleman when the guy came on the bottom and said, hey, I can fix this. When we could have done this.
So this is the same arrangement that we did with the wood bearing that Scott mentioned earlier. That was through HCMS. Wild Rose Machine probably wouldn't bid this by themselves. They would want to have someone like HCMS take the lead. So that's why we're doing that.
Okay.
But your question is very legitimate. I mean, there are some really unusual, unique work down there, and this is some of it that you just can't go and get 3 bids for.
What's HCMS's managerial fee to oversee this project?
We're gonna put our typical 15% on this, and then we have there's gonna be some of my time, some manpower in this as well. So
13.5, give or take. Just for accuracy on the record, right around $13,500. 15%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not including your time, right?
No.
What else did you say would be on there? Your time and what else?
We have some contingency in there.
A what? I didn't hear you.
Contingency fee.
I'm very aware of specialized type situations like this. I do like the fact that we found somebody that has this equipment in place and figured how to finally fix the junk that we bought whenever we bought it. That said, one more time on record, it's hard to come to a council with a $90,000 bid with no other bids and expect us just to say, yeah, sounds great, let's do it. Not saying that this situation, it won't be that way, but again, a second price is critical for councils.
Sure, and I understand. So just a little more clarity on what the scope is. So Wild Rose Machine has their own machine shop, their own machine tool shop. He's going to be building a portable milling head, indexing milling machine that you would typically see in a shop, right? A lot of you are familiar with that. That he can, this is a special machine, custom-made machine, boring machine that he can use in a portable way in the pit, in the turbine bay pit. So, yeah.
So are we paying the price for the machine then? Do we get to keep it? Or he's not charging us for building that?
He's charging his time for building that and the tooling associated with it, but the machine itself, no. I don't know. I guess I never asked him that. Where else he would use this machine, I don't know. And you know, I guess where you would ever use it again, I don't know either. This is kind of a one-time thing.
I have a few more questions if everybody else is done. When he gave the bid, isn't it going to cost more to do it in the winter?
Scott can comment a little bit on that. I mean, there is some, Scott, why don't you comment on how you're going to enclose the turbine pit there?
Yeah. So there, of course, there's some challenges, but what we found, well, actually we had it dewatered last winter. If we put some bales of straw across the little bit that's exposed to the outside elements, and we open up, I guess you call it the manhole to get down in there, and we just run our air vent down in there, it pretty much brings the heat from the building down in there, and we can keep the pit relatively warm, at least around freezing. So we really don't get much for icing down there. Okay. So yeah, it's we can manage that really well this time of year.
Scott, doing it during the winter, excuse me, Candy, doing it during the winter, obviously, if we get it done, we'll be able to take advantage of it during runoff as far as generating power.
Correct. That's why this is at your hands right now.
Right.
And in spring, you get, extra stresses on things, a lot of water flow. I would just be nervous going into spring with the machine in the shape that it's in right now.
I got some questions, like on the numbers that you ran for generation, the money that we're gonna make on it. It's hard to believe that you're gonna put that much pressure on unit number 4 to run it to make the money that the numbers you gave us, because unit number 4 has always been our problem, even though we're fixing it up and everything. It's been a last resort machine. So I kind of feel like the numbers are gonna probably be a little off unless you're going to do that. I hardly believe that if you're going to run it to that part, that machine is going to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Candy. Let me comment on that because I put the numbers down there, and you're absolutely right. Those numbers are based on, like as it says, best rate, best water. Now, we can debate this a long time, but the way I simply look at this, and I think Scott's looking at it the same way, and I think you should. Even if you run that machine, I've got 87, 60 hours in a year. Let's just say you run it 20% of that time, 2,000 hours. And let's say your rate is not, you're not going to be getting commercial rate because, as you all know, after, I think it's the 5 megawatt load you're selling to the grid, the city's load, above the city's load, you're selling at the wholesale rate. So just take 20% of that figure and selling it at half of what your commercial rate is, your retail rate. You still make almost twice that money in a year. It's, to me, it's from a economic valuation, a monetary valuation, revenue energy valuation. It's just kind of a no-brainer.
Scott, are we running that machine, or have we run that machine in the last few years, even at 20%?
Yes, I could get you those numbers, but it's far in excess of 20%. And there's several reasons for that. For one, unit 4 is by far the most efficient machine if you look at water to megawatt output. So right. That's a lot of times our go-to machine in certain situations. If I had to take a guess, I'm going to say we're at least 70% on that machine in a year.
We're using it 70% of the time.
If I had to take in the last 2 to 3 years because of the water flow, yes, I would. And that's just an estimate, but I can get you those numbers. But yes, I would say it's about 70%.
All right. Would you get me them numbers?
Yes, I will.
And I think it's probably higher than that. But again, my point is just simply that if you ran for, say, 4 or 5 weeks during spring runoff, which is pretty certain. Let's say you don't have a really wet year like you've had the last 3 years, where you have ran it more than you probably would on the average. But you run it 4 or 5 weeks during spring runoff, You run it maybe 2 or 3 weeks during the fall when you start your second drawdown. And We Energy does that. And then if you have, and you're going to have 2 weeks probably during the year when you are doing maintenance on units 1 and 2, you're going to be running that anyway. There's your 8, 9, 10 weeks, 20% of the year right there, which is, twice the value of what the cost of this work is. So
So basically, you're saying the payback's less than the ROI, and this is less than a year.
yes, even in a year when you're running this only 30%, still less than a year.
If we do end up doing this, once it's finished, Scott, can we have that machine checked for that to see what kind of money we made off of it? Maybe at 6 months and then at a year, I'd like to see what the profit was.
Absolutely. Yeah, that won't be a problem.
And then, you guys say it's good to go now, but we always hear that, and then we're hearing catastrophic this and that. You just never know. And I know a little bit of the back of this machine, and there's still things that could come. And then after that, I want to go over to your budget. The budget that you
Okay.
have put in.
Okay.
Wait, is this where you got under projects? Is this the unit 4 Wicket Gate alignment added to that or not?
Yes, this is it.
Okay, so
that'd
you
be, item number 2 on page 6.
So you only put in 75,000?
Right. Yep. And did you get the write-up that I made for the meeting tonight? I put in there that I
did.
lowballed.
Yeah, I did see that. Just wanted to
Yeah.
check. So when you're coming,
Oh, excuse me.
go ahead. So if you're coming down, these are the projects that you got done so far? Or no?
What's that?
On your first thing of the projects, unit 4 bearing replacement, we already did that, right?
Correct. Correct. Yep.
And then-
All those other projects are done.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask. So when
Yep.
you're coming down, your overall over budget, you say that you are over budget by $299,000 and 138.
Correct.
And then you took a few things off,
Correct.
and then you're under budget, but still overall this year, so far you would be 170,999.5 over budget.
That would be correct.
This is where it gets sticky, because I don't like being over budget like that. And I mean, I know there's things that are gonna pop up, but I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, if this is your total budget, I don't know if there's anything else that you could take off of there, but to me, that's way too far over budget. And either, I don't know if you guys want to take it out of next year's budget, 170, but I just want to make it, and I'm not just blaming, trying to shove that at you, but that as a council, that's what we got to look at. I mean, I don't remember ever this electric department being over budget, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Understood. Yeah, there are definitely, as the years progress, there are definitely some more areas that we can shave off, and I can get that to you. I'll dive into it tomorrow and I'll get you some numbers.
Okay, so we can maybe shave some off of next year's budget. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would think this year yet.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I just wanted to add that I've never liked this coming in with $90,000 and, well, we can't bid this. I've heard that for years on projects all over the place. And I don't like to hear that. Yet it
None of
keeps
us
coming
do,
up this
Jeremy.
way.
If I could ask, what's the warranty going to be on this machine after you replace the pins and redo all this work?
That's a question for me. 12 months on the work that's being done.
The 9 pins, were them fixed the last time you were in there?
Yes, they were fixed. we had new ones. We had some spares. We had to have a couple new ones made. We reinstalled them.
So did we have a warranty on any of them 9 pins?
No. And to that, because of, how should I put this? Because the machine hadn't been online for more than a few months, we have not run that machine at capacity for fear of breaking more pins. So since we've watered it back up, we've been, how should I say, kind of nursing that machine along, just because we don't want it to fail and blow up that brand new wood bearing. Because if the wicket gate pins go, the bearing goes with it. So we've been taking it easy on that thing. And that machine almost always runs at 100%. That's where it makes all its power. So since then, we've been running at about 85.
Yeah, and we haven't, I mean, Scott, you're talking about, to me, the least of the risk here. If that machine catastrophically fails and cannot be shut down, which was basically the situation in 2019, that's a risk that, I'll just go on the record that I, would strongly discourage you to operate that machine at all, even at reduced load, because of the risk involved with the inability to shut the machine down. Having rotating machinery that is out of control would be catastrophic. I put a little bit of that in the letter here. It'd be catastrophic to the not just to the entire machine, but to the adjacent machine, and you have a dam safety risk of failing, that powerhouse, and that's, that risk is just totally unacceptable.
Is there any more questions or
I got
comments?
one more question. The misalignment, how far is it misaligned? Do we have any facts or figures on what the misalignment is? Like how far out of alignment it is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was going to put a picture in this proposal here. Scott, maybe you can comment on that too, but you can look at those bushings on the top, which hold the pins, are intended to hold the pins concentric. You can look at them with your naked eye, and they're pointed in different directions. I mean, it's that bad. And then on the bottom, it's a matter of that it's just never been addressed. That cover has never had any machine work done on it since it was installed, the base ring, okay, where those pins sit. So they're sitting there like this, and then on the top, they're misdirected. So, they should be within 5 thousandths, 5 thousandths top to bottom. They're probably within, some of them probably 200 thousandths. I mean, they're just grossly eccentric. And the two covers just, there's no strength there. Right? Together.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion? We have no motion. Would you guys like something more out of this bid, or you want it to come back and have it tabled?
Well, I would like to see a $90,000 bids out there. I know that he said that it's hard to come by, but if one person done it, there's got to be somebody else that'll do it too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's quite a bit over budget. We're over budget.
Okay, we have no motion.
Yeah, I motion that Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 4 repairs be awarded to HCMS for a price not to exceed $89,350.
Support.
Mr. Mararo,
Yes.
Mr. Oja,
No.
Mr. Pop,
No.
Mrs. Brew,
No.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
On to addresses from the audience. Anyone wishing to address the council on any item will be unmuted and given an opportunity to make their comments. For participants on Zoom, you can use the raise your hand feature and the host will initiate the unmute. For telephone participants, hit *9 to initiate a request to speak. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person.
Sandy, Scott has a question.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just want to go on the record and say that, and I know Scott knows this already, but I would strongly recommend. Pardon?
We can't hear you.
But can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that Scott, you know, I've talked about this with Scott, but strongly recommend to not run Unit 4 because of the risks that are identified in the letter here that's on your desk. There's a very high risk to destroying the entire machine, and there's a high risk for risk to your employees there. So I just want to go on the record and make sure that we're clear about that if something would happen. And I'll preface that with saying that that machine will not run another 3 or 6 months without breaking pins, just like it has repeatedly done. It may do it even sooner. And without having a way to shut it down, it would be very irresponsible to run it at all. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Scott. We'll move on to mayor council comments. Scott?
I've got a couple things here. Mr. Anderson, where are we at with our meters? You know, electric and water meters. Have we gotten anywhere on them?
Well, water meters, we need to go in the house and we can't go in the house right now.
Why can't we?
Why? Because of the governor's order.
Contractors are going in houses.
Okay, but we aren't going into houses right now. I mean, if you.
Okay, so electric
ones
ones.
Electric ones on the outside, that would be a question for Scott on scheduling those. He used typically start scheduling those in the winter.
He
So,
put,
Well, sorry, go ahead, Candy.
he had 12 on for last month that they put in.
Well, I just want to bring something up. I know it's been brought up around the office and it's been brought up around everything else. We've had 2 guys retire last year, both in each departments, and they're able to work for so much. And I do know that it's been brought up. I just wonder why we don't ask them, because they can work for so much, why they won't go and do this for us. Which I know one of them said he would.
right, and I asked him to put a proposal together for us. I haven't seen the proposal yet, but I did ask him to put a proposal together for us. Also, that's something from a professional service standpoint that we haven't budgeted. So definitely in this budget, we're going to talk about adding, contracting to get those meters put in.
So what are we going on, 5 years now?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So they could be, sooner or later, they're going to be obsolete. All right, next one. The time card project, the daily cards, are any advancement on that?
No, we're having trouble with that issue, so I have no advance.
Okay. I would just like to throw this out there. I would like to set up an executive meeting to discuss management personnel. And
We have an
that's all I
executive
got.
session tonight. We can talk about it.
Okay. And we can set a date for that too, if you want.
Okay.
I'll get back to everybody. Anything else, Scott?
No, I'm good.
Brett?
I have nothing.
Jeff?
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm very disappointed on the vote, the way the vote down in the Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit 4 repairs went. I mean, budgets are great, but ultimately, when you're hearing ROIs of a year or less on repairs to units for the number one asset in our city, I think we have to try to be a little bit more open-minded about said budget. We pay Scott Kabundi a lot of money every year to advise us on this dam. You heard what Scott said after we voted it down. He wouldn't even run the unit.
Mr. Moraro, I would just like to comment on that and my reasoning behind it. I am sick and tired of not getting bids on things. And
Scott,
things are brought to us with an amount of money, so then we can't go out and get bids to it. And it's funny how that always happens.
I'm the number one guy with bids, buddy.
That's the only reason. I know this is emergency. This is
Yeah.
something that we need to do, but there's never anything.
You hear me preach about bids every council meeting. I am with you, pal. I'm with you 110%. In this situation, I do believe this is a very specialized situation. I do believe that we'd have to tear a unit out and our costs would skyrocket to fix it properly. And I do believe that, like we all agree, that the number one asset the city has is that dam. I think we've all done a great job bringing that thing forward the last year plus. That said, I'm going on record, very disappointed that this thing was shot down tonight. The other thing I have, Madam Mayor, is that, our governor has decided to extend, as we all know, the lockdown on restaurants and bars in our state. We're only one of 2 states left with those restrictions left. I believe it's Michigan and Washington now. And I just would like to say, let's try to get out there and help. If you can take out food, spend some money with those restaurants and those bars that have food available for takeout or delivery. I think it's really, really important to do right now. Thank you.
Jeremy?
I got nothing.
I have nothing either. Mr. Anderson?
I have nothing.
Tricia, Mary?
No, I have nothing, Candy. Thank you.
I don't have anything either, thank you.
I need a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion to go into closed session.
Support.
I'll let you do the roll call, but I'll just say, Trish, we'll be going into closed session. We'll come back into open session just to adjourn. We will not be voting on anything. And we will be going in for collective bargaining negotiations.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Moraro,
Yes.
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
Yes.
Ray, am I staying in on this?
Yes.